Okay, so we will be today, starting with the topics. So first topic is order of
Okay.
execution.
Execution Salesforce. Okay.
Now, the why the order of execution is important. See, the importance of the order of execution is especially when you have to debug, when you have to,
Mm-hmm.
you are facing some issue and you have to debug, your whole application or your functionality. So, the order of execution is required.
Okay.
Or when you have to configure your application. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
now, the first thing what exactly happen is there's a certain sequence. For example,
Mm-hmm.
uh, whenever you will try to perform some operation, either you try to the insert the data or update the data. So the first will be system validation, which will work. Then before trigger,
Mm-hmm.
custom validation after trigger, then workflow. If any field update,
Mm-hmm.
then again either before or after trigger, then your escalation rules
Mm-hmm.
roll up
Summary.
summary,
Okay.
then criteria based sharing rule, and post commit logic, like sending email, anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the let us the just understand, because this sequence you have to the uh, just remember. So when I'm saying the first step is the system validation, so system validation means that if you are trying to input the data which is not acceptable by the field, for example,
Mm-hmm.
okay, there the for example the desired data is text, but you are inputting the number. So
Mm-hmm.
that will be the system validation. Then
Okay.
your before trigger will fire. The then after that, you make custom validation. So whatever the the custom validation you will make, I mean the validations which you will define, so those will fire.
Mm-hmm.
Then after trigger, then workflow. If any field will be updated with the workflow, then again it will the I mean again either the before trigger or after trigger will fire. That depends.
Okay. Yeah.
And as mentioned rule, product summary, formula field, then your criteria based sharing rule, and post commit logic, in which uh, the anything that is required to be the done at the end of the process. So generally
Okay.
send the email something like that.
Yeah.
This,
Success email, failure email. Okay.
yes. So this you have to, this is a theoretical part which you have to, remember. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Now there's a, the governor limit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the governor limit, why it is important? Because these, Salesforce is a platform, and it is a multi-tenant, it is based on the multi-tenant architecture. Now, when I say the multi-tenant architecture, then what
Yeah.
is the meaning of that? That means that, for example, you stay in a flat culture. Okay, so the resources like the electricity, water, gas, everything is equally distributed among every flat. Okay, that that means that whatever your utilization you have, you can use it. It will not happen in any case that you have I mean used more gas than your neighbor is facing some problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
your utilization will be satisfied, but every every flat will have the equal things, and if you exhaust that, then you will be only one who will be suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that is the why governor limit is important. Now, the governor limit, if I say, then there are the multiple, I mean, the number of things, because everything is defined inside the governor limit. But we will gradually learn. So I will, discuss a few things here, which is
Mm-hmm.
important for our development. Okay. For example, SOQL. So
Mm-hmm.
in synchronous process, it runs 200, sorry, 100 times, whereas
Okay.
in asynchronous process it runs 200 times. Okay,
Okay.
record it will fetch is 50,000, that we have discussed
Mm-hmm.
in SOQL. Okay,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
in both cases, either it is in synchronous or asynchronous, it will fetch the same number of records, that is 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
SOSL. Now, as I said, that the SOSL will be only for the finding the data, finding the
Okay.
text data. So it will run 20 times, okay, and the record it will fetch, that will be 2,000.
Okay.
Okay, then we have the DML, that is the data manipulation language. So the
Mm-hmm.
that is we have the limit of 150 trigger.
Okay.
Trigger we have is 16.
Okay.
Maximum time for each trigger is 10 minutes. So one thing you have to the make remember is that the governor limits are counted in each transaction, that is counted against each transaction. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
once the transaction will be completed, the it will again refresh and will start from the count one.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
email you can send is 10. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
gradually when we will reach into the asynchronous process, we will see about the asynchronous process, and what are the governor limits of future batch, schedulable class, capable class, we will see at that time.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the governor limit, the importance, I have told you that the why the governor limit is important, because if we will breach the governor limit, we will get the exception, and that exception will be the can't be handled. That will be the failure of
Mm-hmm.
application.
Yeah.
So when you are doing some sort of the programming, then using the best practices, we have to the very carefully design our the programming pattern, so that such errors, the common limit errors, will
Mm-hmm.
not the be faced while our program is in production, while it is in the live phase.
Okay.
Okay, so now we will understand the best practices. First, your program should handle large number of data. That means
Mm-hmm.
it should not, it should not be like the program is handling the one the data. So it should be the
Yeah.
capable enough to handle the large number of data. And when I say
Yeah.
large number of data, then it is possible using collection.
Okay.
Okay, so we have the we will talk the more about the collection technically. But for now we have the three type of the collection, that is list, set, and map.
Mm-hmm.
So collections are primarily used to store the data.
Okay.
It is something the like array,
Mm-hmm.
but the array is something which we have seen that we have to define the size of the array during the initialization.
Okay.
So this is not the problem here, though the the if I talk about the comparison between the array and the collection, then the array is faster as compared to collection. But the benefit is that the size of the collection is dynamic. You need not to define the size. It will increase
Mm-hmm.
decrease the size as per the data which will be storing into the collection.
Okay.
Okay, so we will use the collection and SOQL query.
No. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
because after all we have to fetch the data. Until unless we will fetch the data from a database, how will we the play with the data?
Yeah. Right. It will not come back. Yeah.
So your program should handle a large amount of data, and
Mm-hmm.
for this we will use collections and SOQL.
Mm-hmm.
Now when we are saying that the we will be using the SOQL, then
Mm-hmm.
we must remember at line number 19 we have just spoke about the governor limit of the SOQL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then your SOQL and DML statements
Mm-hmm.
should not be inside for loop, because what will happen that if we put the SOQL statement or the DML statement inside the the for loop, then what
Mm-hmm.
will happen is
It will hit the corner limit.
right, right,
Yeah.
because if we are by chance, if our logic is written in such a way that that we are using our SQL inside the for loop. So the chances are that that it will make our SQL run the the more than 100 times,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then we
Yeah.
get the error
Yeah.
101,
Limit 101. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So that will be the problem again,
Yeah.
right? And as a best practice, I have I told you that when you are writing your logic, always use the limit, and your limit should be 49999, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So the I have mentioned here that DML statement should not be inside the for loop. So why I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
because the same thing. If let's say just for example, you have
Mm-hmm.
one, then the second, then the third, then the four, then the five, and in the same way, you have
Mm-hmm.
151 records.
Okay.
Now, each time when you will be putting your I mean the DML, you are running the DML for each record, for first record, second record, third record, fourth record, fifth record, and same way, you know the 151 records we have. So still till the 150 records, we will be the executing, we will be performing some DML operation. Either it could be
Mm-hmm.
insert, whatever. Okay, it will run.
Yeah.
But as soon as we will the do it for 151th record, we will get the error, the runtime exception.
Mm-hmm.
So what we will do is, we will always store the the data into list, and then
Okay.
on that particular list we will perform our DML operation. So the count will be 1, because
Okay.
the you have stored the
Mm-hmm.
whole data into a list, and then you are running your the DML onto a list. So
Mm-hmm.
that will be considered as a the one thing,
One transaction. Okay.
right? Okay, so this is
Okay.
your the second best practice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, since we are talking about the best practices a lot, so and especially the governor limit. So we if you want to know the the governor limit of
Mm-hmm.
the that how much the the governor limit has been exhausted by a user. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a class that is a limit class, and also we have the email notification facility available for each user. We can enable it. So the limit class have a different methods. Each method they will give the I mean the governor limit of every different uh, types. And the email notification is something which we will enable for a user. And
Mm-hmm.
as soon as we will reach the 50% of our governor limit, a email will be shared by the Salesforce that you have exhausted 50% of your governor limit. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so now always use try and catch block.
Mm-hmm.
Now the what the programming initially we will not, but gradually we will increase our level, and we will don't worry about the if you're writing the notes, then don't worry, I was sharing with you.
Okay. Sure.
And in case if you have any problem, then again we will discuss the you know
No, no, no. Like I'll be, I mean, I'm not writing everything. I know you'll be sharing, but yeah, couple of things like a list, set, map, and those things. I'm
that we
making
will
just note
discuss
on site. Yeah.
before
Yeah, sure.
We will actually, this is a part of the development. So we will
Yeah.
discuss about these. So
Okay.
that's the reason. Okay. So what I was saying is that the when you go for when the people go for the the interview, or just to to impress the the person sitting on the other side of the desk, people
Mm-hmm.
gradually say I mean the people say usually that they use a try catch, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have seen that people actually do not use this thing try and catch in their programming. So this is something the may is not a difficult. I don't know why may the people hesitate to use, but
Mm-hmm.
try catch is important because
Okay.
certain it helps you to whatever the exceptions we get in our programming. It handle it. It shows us. And it can help us in a various way to even the work on the debugs.
Okay.
So our programming, whatever the programming we will learn, we will they use the try catch in each and every for your trigger handler classes, test class, asynchronous
Mm-hmm.
programming. We will use try catch.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Now, if you are using the future method, that is just I'm telling you this fifth point we will discuss in our asynchronous programming. If you are using the future method, if you're calling the future method
Mm-hmm.
from the trigger, then
Okay.
again we have to be very careful because there's a certain limit we have. Just a minute.
Okay. Sure.
Hmm. Okay. So if I'm saying that the if you are calling the the future method from a trigger. Okay. Now trigger is
Mm-hmm.
something the though we will they talk more in the technical terms, but just for understanding in a layman language, trigger is something which which you can imagine that the somebody is just knocking the door continuously, and it depends upon
Mm-hmm.
the mindset that how many times he or she will knock the door. So
Mm-hmm.
each time when the person is knocking the door, when it is hitting the door, so
Mm-hmm.
that is producing a sound. And you generally the when it become very repetitive, you get irritated, right?
Yeah.
So when you
Yes.
get irritated, that is the that is the your limit, your governance limit. You said now, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming here, wait for a minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
same way the when the trigger, when you're calling a feature method from a trigger, so trigger is the same man, when as per the logic or as per the your records, or whatever the the way you have written your program, it will keep
Mm-hmm.
the calling the future method, keep calling the future method, keep calling the future method.
Okay.
Okay. So again, the chances of hitting the government limit is maximum. So especially when you're using the future method from your trigger, you have to be very careful.
Okay.
Okay. And the limit we can the use our future method is 50.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never hardcode IDs in your program, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't know that the though you are putting the record ID as a hard coded in your program,
Mm-hmm.
you never know the record will be available in other orgs with the same
Yeah.
ID. You don't know. So if the
Yeah. Yeah.
if such thing happen that you have hard coded the ID and that record is not available in any other system, then it will be the again a problem for you.
Yeah.
So hard coding is not allowed.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Always write one trigger on an object
Mm-hmm.
and use trigger handler class. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is, the reason why I'm saying is that always write one trigger on an object, because you cannot, the control the order of execution of a trigger, because
Mm-hmm.
whenever you will try to, the update the data, or do some sort of, the play with the data, so
Mm-hmm.
trigger will automatically get fire. Now if you
Okay.
have a multiple trigger on an object, you cannot, the control the order of execution, that no, this trigger should work right now, this trigger should, the work later on, or it should not work.
Mm-hmm.
Triggers do not understand this thing. It will,
Yeah.
the only and only it will the 100% they will get fire, and
Mm-hmm.
based on the logic written inside it, it will perform. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if your logic is written, for example, the controlling statement, if I say that it should I mean you have used the if else. Have you
Mm-hmm.
used if else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some.
So
Yeah.
the for example, if you are using any if log and saying that, the uh, if and the condition is you are putting, so in
Mm-hmm.
case if you are putting any condition like that, which can, the stop your trigger to be to perform some further actions, then
Mm-hmm.
you are safe. But if there is no such condition, then it will
Yeah.
be
It will
render.
run in it every time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is recommended to use only one trigger on an object. But frankly
Mm-hmm.
speaking, I have seen that, the in even in the live projects, that people, the have written the so many triggers on an object, and I have worked on on a issue where, the my project manager told me
Mm-hmm.
that you are going to work on an object which is like burning your hands,
Okay.
because they have written so many, triggers, and when you try to they perform some operation on an object, so there all the triggers are going to, the fire, and we were hitting the CPU limit, CPU,
Limit. Mm-hmm.
the limit only.
Timeout. Okay.
So the such things we you have to, the make sure that we should not, the write the the triggers more than one, and whatever the logic you have to write, better you write your trigger handler classes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are the uh, I mean the best practices of the Apex.
Mm-hmm.
Any question in this?